everybody, welcome back to Challenge Call of Max and Avery. I'm your host, Max.
And I am Avery. How are you guys?
Right, we are officially back. We are going to be starting up with our regular weekly episodes again. So, excited to be back. We're back. Football's back. We had our first preseason game yesterday. But before we get into football, we're going to talk about some other sports news that we got going on in the episode. But first things first, Avery, what have you been up to since our last episode?
Oh man, school. Continuing with school. Like I feel like I'm sound like a broken record at this point. But school's just been like my main priority ever since I got out of the military, and I finished another 18 credit hours, and yeah, it's been an interesting time, but I'm almost done, so I'm excited.
Nice.
What about you, man?
I finished up my internship, officially went back into the office. I'm actually truly going to be coaching the tight ends now. The running backs are going to be handed over to another coach. Lots of movement on our staff and whatnot. So I'm a true tight ends coach now. I still have the title of both, but once again, I kind of only fuck with one. I went to Colorado between those two things happening. Saw a Rockies game. It was rough. It was very rough. Yikes! I've seen high school teams have like better innings than that. Yeah, it was the errors everywhere. I was baffled. I was like, wow, okay, but yeah, no, it's been a good time. I'm ready for the football season to start back up, both as a coach and a fan, and so let's get rolling into it. Speaking of baseball, our first headline here we got for you guys. The Cubs go on a 10-game win streak. Cubs actually pulling it out a little bit. They are 54-53, which is third in the NL Central. Also, that record technically is a little different now because they did lose yesterday. Pretty rough loss yesterday. Avery, what do you have to say about Cubs?
Yeah, no, I'm just happy that they kind of went on a 10-game win streak for a couple weeks there, you know. It felt like we were starting to turn the corner yesterday. Yeah, it was a little rough. But I think we're so completely average. Like the Chicago Cubs, like we start to gain some traction and then we start to fall apart. We start to gain some traction. I think we're like 1 year away, especially being a Cubs, like watching the Cubs and being a Cubs fan. I think we're 1 year away. We say that a lot in Chicago, but hopefully we are 1 year away from being that playoff team.
Do you think the Cubs make the playoffs this year?
There's potential, but I don't. If we do, I don't see us getting out of the first round or even the wild card play-in game. Like I don't see it. Yeah, but there's potential. Like we're like 3 spots away from that last wild card spot. So like if we do get in, great. If that would be awesome. Just be happy to play October baseball. But if we don't, I'm not upset with anything. So.
Which that is fair. Second bit of news we have for you guys. Bronny, LeBron's son, went to the hospital for a heart attack. How old is he?
He's 18. Yeah.
18.
18 years old and had a heart attack. That makes you question everything you know about your health. Like, to me at least. Like, I feel like, I've been losing weight. I've been running, shredding a couple of pounds, getting a little, and I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get in a healthy, heart right. And then you see an 18-year-old that is literally the offspring of one of the greatest athletes to ever play in the NBA. Literally the offspring. And he has a heart attack. And he goes down. And he almost died. Thank God they have the team doctor at USC. It's kind of like a DeMar Hamlin situation. You don't really know how truly, these medical professionals are valued until it's crunch time. And
yeah, I just can't believe an 18-year-old having a heart attack. Like that is insane. And you bring in the health aspect to it, but I don't know, that it's got to be something sports related, right? Like it has to be almost the opposite of oh, poor cardiac, whatever health. Like that almost to me seems like you're pushing the heart way too hard here.
Yeah.
Like you need to back off of it, and you pushed it too far and it struggled.
I feel you're right, man, because just Bronny going to the hospital, Jeez, man. That, like I said, it just makes you think about life, and it makes you think he's 18 years old. 18. That's insane.
Yeah, hopefully he is doing all right. But getting some football news here. The rest of this is all football news, actually. But we've got a lot of conference realignment going on already. Um, New members in the Big Ten. We've got Oregon and Washington officially coming to join us. That is crazy. Like now, look at I just saw this morning a map of like the Big Ten schools, and it's the regular Big Ten, Midwest, East Coast kind of looking map, and then it's just these four little dots over on the West Coast, just a huge gap in the western half of the country. There's also what is that, 18 teams now in the Big Ten, and the
Yeah,
Pac-12 only gets weaker and weaker and weaker.
yeah. So we have 18 teams now in the Big Ten, and the Big Ten is also the first conference to cover from coast to coast, which is incredible. Like from west to east, east to west. Like we got Rutgers on the East Coast, all the way to Oregon and UCLA and USC on the west. So like it's kind of cool, but you're right. There is that little bit of a middle gap that we don't really got anything. The farthest west before you go out to the four schools is Nebraska. I mean, that's like the farthest west you go until we added these schools. It's gonna be interesting, man. Like, how do you see? Like, one, I feel bad for the pack for the big or sorry, I feel bad for the Pac-12 because they are dead in the water at this point. Washington State, Oregon, Stanford, and California. Those are the only four schools that remain after this move. As you guys know, Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah are now officially joining the Big 12 also. So, with that being said, the Pac 12 is dead, and college football is moving to what we've also mentioned, the Big Three, the Power Three conferences. I could see it. Like, at this point, I could see it.
Yeah, I don't like the Power Three. I think Power Four. Sure, I would like a four. I saw a proposed conference alignment that was a four conferences. It was Pac 16, Big 16, SEC, and then ACC, I think. And it was 16 teams in each of them, and it was almost set up more like the NFL structure where you had groupings of four, like there was a north, south, east, west in each of those four conferences, and a whole breakdown like that. I think that would be beautiful. I think that'd be perfect, because we already have like SEC and Big Ten are split east west, and you don't play everyone in your conference. And isn't that the whole point of a conference? Is you play every team in your conference like every year. So I don't really like the conferences getting too massive like this, where it's like, hey, now we're not facing the same teams like every year, kind of over and over. Like the structure, I feel like is loses some integrity or some value.
Yeah, I feel that too. I wouldn't mind that, but how cool is it a little bit that the Big 12 climbed up from like the dead? Like they started losing school after school. They lost Texas A&M first, then they lost Texas, Oklahoma, and now they're like the Pac-12 is going to revive us. And now like the one thing I'm like shocked because I think Utah is going to be great in the Big 12. Like I think Utah could be a deal breaker because they always compete in the Pac-12. Like Utah is always there, and so like seeing Utah and Colorado maybe with Deion Sanders, I think those
See,
two teams they're gonna have some structure there. How do you feel about Oregon and Washington though? Joining the Big Ten, it's hard for me. I feel like they're a mid-tier team in the
I'm
Big Ten.
slight I'm slightly indifferent on Oregon and Washington coming in, but like okay, so you said um you were talking about the Big 12 kind of being revived by the Pac 12 a little bit. I, I kind of see it that way, and I also kind of don't. Like, I see it more like, hey, Big 12 is dying. Hey, the Pac 12 is dying. These two dying entities tried to merge together to be something bigger, but at the end of the day, the teams in these entities are the same teams that were in two like weaker dying conferences. Like you're still going to get your Big 10, Big 12 matchup or your Big 12 SEC matchup. And I feel like more often than not, like Big 10 and SEC are, winning those games probably 75% of the time at least.
For sure. I agree. I mean,
Especially sorry, with like you said, like with the teams like Oregon, USC, UCLA, especially because some of the better teams that are leaving that Pac-12 conference are going to the Big 10, leaving the worse off teams to the Big 12. So the Big 12 is growing, but I don't necessarily think they're growing in the most talentful way or the most talent packed way.
and that's understandable with that. The one thing I am surprised is there are a few teams that like I figured Utah would have probably joined the Big Ten. Well,
Yeah,
instead,
Utah
like,
would be the one.
yeah,
Utah would be the one that I like. That's like, hey, that's a like good notable team.
yeah, like Oregon and Washington and Utah. If that would have like UCLA could have stayed in the Big 12, I feel like they're okay. But Utah, if they would have joined, then I would have got on your boat. But like they do get a couple of these solidified teams. But now the real question is, what happens to the Pac-12? Like, are they going to keep these four teams and build with smaller schools like Boise State, San Diego State? Are you going to bring in these type of schools from the Mountain West, Hawaii, and bring them into the Pac-12 at this point? Or are you going to completely dissolve? What's the
I
next move?
I feel like you completely dissolve because the teams that are in the Power Five conferences, I don't want to necessarily add a bunch of teams. Like I don't want to fill in that gap by pulling up a bunch of General Five schools. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you're in the Gen 5. Like, oh, let's just grab a bunch of you and pack this. Like at that point, is it a Power 5 conference? Like,
Sure.
no, it's not. It's a
Right.
bunch of Gen 5 schools. So I think the best case would probably honestly be dissolve the Pac-12 and just like there's what 4 schools left in it. Just plop one of each of those schools in one of those Gen 5 and call it a day.
Well, and that was my next question is like, is it going to be in a Power 5 or is it going to be in a non-Power 5 that Washington State, Oregon
True,
State,
they could
Stanford,
join the ACC.
Cal? Like, how is it not going to be a power? Because, like, you don't know. Like, I'm going to say, to be honest, I don't see Stanford or Cal not in a Power 5 conference. Those two really, but Washington State and Oregon State, I could see them joining the Mountain West, like, as a non Power 5 school. And that
Yeah,
would suck for their boosters. That would suck for a lot because guess what? They're going to lose a lot of that Power 5 money and that's the shitty part about the realignment. Like, I'm excited and I'm all here for it, but I'm at the same time, I'm not. One, we haven't even mentioned Iowa in this aspect of things.
yeah. But the biggest thing, yes, okay. So you said they should go to a Power 5. We've got fucking Big 10 all up over here with some West Coast sprinkles. Why not give the ACC a couple West Coast sprinkles? Like just for scaling purposes.
For sure.
Like Big 10's growing, Big 12's growing, SEC's growing. Like why not just kind of give the leftover to the ACC just so like
The
size
SEC.
wise they actually have a little bit more sizable amount of schools in the conference.
And the hard part I see with that, with like the ACC, is they have no like Midwest team. They have not a single one. And so, like, at least the Big 12, they have Midwest teams. They have, like, lower Southwest of the conference. But I don't know why I'm talking about this when geography doesn't matter in college football nowadays. Like,
That makes no difference whatsoever.
so you're
Like
right.
I just said, I just talked about the like Big Ten. Yeah, there's a couple Midwest teams, but you cross a whole 2, almost 3 states before you touch another team. Like
True.
who cares? Like they can fly to the East Coast every week for their game. Like who cares?
For sure. Well, and so who's the best team out of these four that are left? Like, that's my generalized question. Who do you think? I would, like, compared from last year, I would say Oregon State. But compared, like, history wise, Probably
Stanford.
Stanford. So it's like, what do you want? Stanford? Like, I see Stanford in the Big Ten. I honestly think they line up well with the Big Ten because not only do you got to think about like the athletic side, you got to think about the academic side for these conferences. Stanford's one hell of a university for academics. So's Northwestern. People compare those two all the time. So's Rutgers. And you already got three powerhouses in the Big Ten for academics. I think Stanford joins the Big Ten. Um,
See, my only thing against that is just like the Big Ten just added 4 schools. Like we just got it, but like that's what I'm trying to even out these like the
yeah,
Power Three. Like 3 conferences. Like, how do you even build that into a playoff system? That's not even an even number. Like, I mean, I know the Power Five's not, but shit, the way playoffs work right now, anyway, it's just hey, here's the top 4, which is
yeah.
annoying. But I don't know. I think
Changes next
college
year, though.
football. Yeah, exactly. I think college football in general just needs like a whole reworking. I think they need to revamp, redo how the entire structure works. They need to normalize it to how literally every other sport and every other level of football works. They are the only ones that do this ranking. Like we just choose who's in the playoffs. Conferences low key don't matter. It annoys me so much. I think they need a complete revamp and do things normally in a way that makes sense.
I agree. I agree 100%. But it's going to be interesting how everything shakes out in the future.
It
Yeah,
will be.
like, it's going
Oh,
to be very interesting.
and before we move on, I just remembered I did see a thing too that USC is pissed that the Big Ten brought in Oregon because they agreed when they joined the Big Ten that they did not want any other Pac-12 schools going into the Big Ten because they wanted to dominate the Western recruiting area. They Now that Oregon is in the mix, they're like, hey, Big Ten, like we had an agreement, like we were going to be able to recruit all the Western kids. Like, hey, we're in the Big Ten. We're the only East or West Coast school in the Big Ten, other than UCLA, which is UCLA.
UCLA.
But you know what I mean? Like, they were pissed that Oregon got brought in too. They were kind of like, hey, what the hell?
And that comes back to my other thing. Like, I feel like you're right on what you're saying about the Big 12. Big 12, they're bringing in a lot of schools, but they're not bringing in high quality schools. If Oregon and Utah would have went to the Big 12, that would have been a game changer. That would have brought up their
Yeah,
status a little bit more. Then
definitely.
instead, and then we would have took, I don't know, give us Arizona State, or something like that. Spread us a little thin. They're like, that's fine. But because like Washington's even been good in the past. Like in the recent past, like Washington's been good. They're a top 25 team. So like both Oregon and Washington joining, and it's like, okay, like Big Ten's just starting to compete with SEC, and that's what terrifies me
For sure.
because
And
I don't want our conference to be like the SEC. And we didn't even talk about the Iowa aspect of it.
okay, hold up,
We're
hold up, hold up. Say something, give me a chance to respond, then get into your next thought.
all right, my bad. Go ahead.
um, what are you just talking about? Washington. Oh, there's also the aspect of Washington being like they've been good at times, but they can be a little meh. There's also the aspect, kind of like we just said, they're going to be a West Coast school that's now in a true Power Five conference. Not that the Pac-12 wasn't, but you know what I mean. They're in the Big Ten now, so now some of those Northwest like recruits, they're going to be more drawn to Washington. So how the Big 12 isn't necessarily getting better with the schools they're bringing in, do we also see an effect of the conference playing in on who chooses to go to what school? Like Utah, great addition for the Big 12. Are they going to start being less of a great school because recruits would rather go to the Big 10 schools that are over in the West? Or Washington, are they going to start to ramp up and be a more consistently good team because they're in the Big 10 and their recruiting area? They're like the one Big 10 school that is over in that corner.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, well, Oregon's over in that corner too.
Yeah, well, so you got 2 options. It's way different than being, from Wisconsin, where it's like or Illinois, where it's like, oh, I want to play in a Big Ten school. All right, there's Illinois, Northwestern, Iowa, Wisconsin,
Purdue.
Minnesota. Like, there's a million of them in that area.
For sure, and I agree, man. And yeah, like that's going to be the hard aspect. It's going to be interesting to see if Washington can step up and to be in a powerhouse, maybe not a powerhouse, but at least a mid-tier team in the Big Ten. I'm not sure. Like, I really don't think. I think Washington's going to be a bottom dweller. I really think Washington in the Big Ten is going to be a bottom dweller. I have heard one team in the Big Ten that is considering leaving the
What is
Big
that?
Ten and for the Big 12, and it's been Nebraska. There's been a couple of reports that Nebraska's been interested in rejoining the Big 12 like they were in the early 2000s. And it's not official yet. That's why we're not going to mention much of it. But if Nebraska left, that would be almost perfect for the Big 12 because they are a prominent school. Like, they do have a rich history. They're not as good now, but I think they would be that perfect Big 12 school. And Nebraska is also that perfect representation of what can happen to a somewhat successful school from a different conference like the Big 12, Pac 12. Nebraska came into the Big 10 from the Big 12 where they dominated for years and they became a bottom dweller in the Big 10. And that is the exact train wreck that could happen to Washington.
That's that's exactly what I was gonna say. I don't know if that would be a good move for Nebraska or not, because on the one hand, in my head, you're never making a playoff again if you're in the Big 12. Like, your schedule of play isn't going to be hard enough. You're not going to, like, no matter how good you do in the Big 12, analysts and shit are going to lean on these Power 3 that are developing, or I guess that's technically in the Power 3, wouldn't it? ACC is kind of left out. But you get what I'm saying. Like, there's going to be, well, granted, it's not 4 teams anymore, like we were saying. So maybe that's a little different. But I
Sure.
can easily see the 4-team system being 2 SEC, 2 Big Ten. Like, that's going to be your playoff schools. It's going to be structured like that. Maybe a Clemson in there once in a while. But so the only good move I could see for Nebraska doing this is, like you said, hey, you're going to go join a little bit of a weaker conference so you can actually kind of succeed again. Like, maybe you'll actually have decent winning records now coming out of this. Not in a strong conference, but like, hey, you'll win.
Yeah, fair enough. And like they haven't really won in the Big Ten. So, but I want to talk about Iowa side of it with like this whole realignment, and then we can move into another thing about Iowa. But this whole realignment, I'm scared to death being an Iowa fan with these teams. Like, I know I'm not scared of Washington, but I am scared of Oregon and USC. Those two terrify me. And there's rumors of Clemson joining the Big Ten at some point too. And if that happens, that would just be traumatizing. How do you feel about this, being an Iowa fan?
If if Clemson joined, at least they would probably join the East.
Yeah,
So we'd only have to worry about them in a potential championship game. Yeah, I also am a little. It's almost like I was just talking about with Nebraska, how on the one hand you want to win games, and so you're like, hey, get these good schools out of here. Like, I want to work 8-win Iowa. We need to win 8. Like, I don't want to play these teams. But on the other hand, it's like, you'll have those years where you're pretty fucking good, and it's like, hey, we just beat Oregon, or like, hey, we just like hung tooth and nail with USC. Like that almost is more rewarding or fulfilling seeing those kind of things happen. So it's that double-edged sword of which do you want to have? Like, do you want to play weak teams and dominate to feel good, or do you want to play difficult teams, watch yourself succeed, even if it's just in certain aspects or in certain, like, hey, we lost by 3, but we ran up the score, like, close game, whatever. I think those kind of competitive levels, you want to play some of those better developed schools, especially with the way playoffs is. Playoffs doesn't matter who you beat in the sense of like, hey, we won our conference, we're going to the playoffs. Like, people pick. Analysts say, yeah, I like you, you're going to go. And so a big factor of that is, hey, who have you played? Like, did you beat Oregon and USC? Oh, yeah, they did. maybe they should be in the 4 spot or the 10 spot or whatever it's going to be now. But like, oh, you beat Minnesota and Nebraska? Like, cool, but I don't give a fuck.
Right. Fair enough, man. And that also brings up the next thing. The Big Ten West is going to compete with the Big Ten East now with these
Yeah.
schools. Like I get where the Big Ten came from because like Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Those are your top teams in the West. I mean, it rivals. I think it does do a decent job of rivaling like Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Maryland. Like, I think it does do a decent job rivaling it. So that'll be an interesting aspect of it, too.
Yeah, I think it definitely will rival the East now because that's almost to the exact point I was making. Like, hey, I don't know if Iowa will ever be in the Big Ten championship again, but at the same time, every time we are in the Big Ten championship, like, look at what happens. Like, we get pounded by the other side. Like,
We do.
the Big Ten West is just not a strong side of the conference. And so, yeah, I do like having a couple of more powerful teams in there just because you are going to have the years where you flip them.
Yep.
Like, we're still going to play all the other schools. We're still going to play our Wisconsin, Western, Northwestern, Minnesota. Like, we're going to play all of them still, Purdue. We're just going to have a couple challenges now, like, every season to give us a good or a better idea of, like, hey, here's where we really stand in the country as a football team.
Yeah. Well, and this doesn't even just reflect football. This happens all sports. And this new Big Ten is going to be all sports. So, like, UCLA in basketball, like, that's a powerhouse in basketball. That knocks Iowa's chances in basketball. I mean, you see Oregon in basketball, Washington in baseball. You have all these other schools that, like, we're just reflecting on football. Like, this is going to, reflect the whole dynamic of every sport in college football.
That is true. There are a lot of other. Granted, you can have some little bit of discrepancies in those kind of things with certain sports, at least. Mainly the big, like you said, baseball, basketball, football, but like shit like rowing or maybe lacrosse. I don't know if any of those schools have lacrosse. Like some of those little like more random sports, there's a little more leeway to be like Cornell's women's wrestling program wrestles with Iowa's women's wrestling program because there's like only one division. Like it's just women's wrestling is just like women's wrestling, like it's college.
Different.
So you can have little bits of changes like that between sports, but yeah, no, this, like you said, UCLA and basketball, like that's going to be a whole new struggle for Iowa. But I think it still speaks to the same principle of like, hey, our schedule is what our schedule is, and now we're going to play a couple of more challenging teams. In basketball's case, UCLA, and we're going to see where we really stack up. Like that same principle, I think, holds true.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But anyway, last bit of news we have to talk about today. We'll talk real quickly on it since we are almost halfway through our episode here. The gambling allegations or scandal that is going on at Iowa and Iowa State. I guess a lot of players are getting busted for gambling and stuff, and they are not supposed to be, as they're NCAA athletes, and that is not legal. Just to name a few names that we know of here. Aaron Blom, the kicker from Iowa. I forget the exact details on him. I forget the details on all these guys, low-key. But
yeah, so the Aaron Blom, he was betting under his mother's name.
Yes, right.
And made a bet on the Iowa State under, a game that we won 27-17. The under was 45. And, he made within the last year $4,400 off of that. So that's it's a decent amount of change. Yeah, for betting on some games. And same with Noah Shannon. I don't really know the details on that one.
Neither do I. I know he's suspended, or he was under investigation. He has been for a while. Like even while I was there, he was under investigation for it. And then Hunter Decker, quarterback from Iowa State. I don't know anything about him, but
I just have one thing about Hunter Decker. You're the starting quarterback for a Power 5 school in Big 12, Iowa State. How do you get yourself wrapped up in this? Have discipline. You're the starting quarterback. You're a leader. You're supposed to be one of the major leaders on the team. How do you get yourself wrapped up in this situation?
Yeah,
I
and
don't understand. It's
neither do I. Now, my one question for like the Aaron Blom, like under his mom's name, like how do they know that? Like, or what was that structure like? Like, was he telling his mom like, "Hey, place this bet," and she was doing it, or was he like signed in on a personal device at Iowa, like betting under the name? Because in my head, that's like kind of two different print. Like, it's the same theoretical, like, hey, you're not supposed to be doing that.
right.
But if he's just saying like, hey, mom, I think you should take the under here, like, like that's just, and she bets it, like, morally wrong, sure, but like, is that truly a legal issue there? Like that's a lot different than being like just on his mom's account, like I'm gonna place this.
Right. And that's kind of a gray area there. I think, it is a little wrong, like morally, but like at the same time, I don't think you can, it's actually, I think it is legal. Like, I really do. I truly think that's still legal. Uh, it's just
Now,
sucks.
theoretically, I think the difference is where the money would go after,
Right.
because you can't get someone to place a bet for you. Like if he was like, "Hey, mom, place this bet," and then you said what, like 40 grand. She
Yeah.
sends him 40 grand after the bet hits. That's a no. If he says, "Hey, mom, I think you should place this bet," she's like, "Okay, I agree," and keeps the 40 grand that she just won, then I think it's more acceptable. But a big factor of this too, the big key piece that really sticks out to me, that breaks most of my argument that I have on college gambling and whatnot, is you bet the Iowa under, especially as someone in a position to affect the score in a lowering way by like missing a field goal or something. Like you bet the under. That is where the biggest issue comes in, because I honestly believe that let college athletes bet. Like let like if Iowa players want to bet on the fucking UCLA USC game going on over in California, like fuck, who cares? Let them do it. Yeah, you can get into some issues with like, yeah, I went to high school with him. I'll tell him to something or other, whatever. Like then, yeah, I could see where that would happen. But in general, in theory, like what's the harm in betting on other teams, betting in other conferences, or even if you're betting on your own team, fucking bet your team to win or some shit. Like, hey, I'm placing a bet on Iowa to win. Am I doing anything wrong? Obviously, I'm trying to win the game. Like, if I want to just put actual money on that, like, is that the most horrible thing?
Yeah. So my stance on this is I think college athletes should be able to bet, but not on the sport that they play. Not
Which
in,
is another factor, sure.
right, like not the college level, not on the college level, like sport, like football at all. Like if you play college football, I don't think you should be able to bet on college football. I think you can bet on the NFL. I don't see no issues with like the NFL or vice versa. If you're an NFL player, I think you should be able to bet on college football.
Well, they
But
can't they?
no, like that's happened in the NFL also. Like there's been so many like gambling violations with the Indianapolis Colts the past couple of weeks too, and
I
so
thought I thought the NFL rule was just you can't do it in an NFL facility or during an NFL like event, something or other. Like you can't bet at the facility, and if you're on the road, like traveling to a game and stuff, all that, like you can't bet at any point during that. But I'm pretty sure outside of that, like they can legally bet. Not necessarily like we said, like you can't bet on your team or in the NFL per se, but like you can bet.
all right, NFL players and personnel are not allowed to engage in gambling in NFL facilities, disclose or any non-public NFL information, or enter a sports book during the NFL season, or maintain any social, business, or personal relationship with sports bettors, or bet a single bet on an NFL game or anything NFL related
Okay, so there would be the issue during season. Like
during season.
the
But
college season
that's when
is
football.
inside of the NFL
Yeah,
season.
yeah, and so that's where the NFL side happens. But no, like if you want to bet on like a college basketball game, like I think that's fine. Like you play your Hunter Decker and you're starting quarterback for Iowa State. You want to bet on the basketball game, like maybe not Iowa, not your own school either. But if you want to bet on Iowa versus Purdue, I don't see an issue with that. I don't see an
No,
issue with that at all. But if you bet on Iowa State basketball game and your roommate is a basketball player that plays at Iowa State, then I see an issue with that. I mean, they're young kids, they're dumb, and a lot of them just ruin their career before they even get started because Noah
and
Shanahan.
I think what you just said has to do more with the rules than what we've kind of been saying. Like, oh, is this wrong? Oh, do they have influence over outcome? And that's why I think a part of it has less to do with the influence of the outcome that they have, and slightly more to do with the fact that like these are kids. Like in our eye, we're pretty young still too. Like we're in our late 20s, whatever. But we're talking 18-year-olds here. Like you get an 18-year-old with an NIL deal, and you give them the ability to gamble, and you know they can be irresponsible as hell. I think that's a part of the no gambling in general rule, just like a hey, don't gamble. I think it has more to do with these kids aren't at the maturity level to handle these amounts of money, and like gambling is generally not recommended for because like if you're gambling and stuff, you're doing well, like $5, $10 bets, like maybe you win a couple hundred in a season or something, whatever. But when some like Aaron Blom, he's winning 40 grand. Like how many bets did he place
Yeah,
to win 40 grand? So I think that's a part of the issue is like we're talking 18, 19-year olds who have thousands of dollars, some of them with the NIL deals that they get and whatnot. And I think a part of it is almost just a safeguard of like, hey, don't go gamble away all your money and be an idiot. Like, take care of yourself.
for sure. And well, that safeguard kind of went away with NIL. Let's be honest. They're giving kids so much money with NIL, it's not
Yeah.
even funny.
Well, it's a difference, Like
Yeah, it is.
it's not the safeguard that went away. Like there was no need for a safeguard because they were not getting paid shit. Like they didn't make anything.
True. Fair. But yeah, that's all I really got on the gambling scandal. Yeah,
Well, we'll move on here and we'll get into our actual true football talk with our NFL preseason games starting up here. We did have our very first game, the Hall of Fame game between the Jets and the Browns. The Browns won it 21-16. I completely forgot it was on, so I didn't watch it at all.
oh man, I watched like 5 minutes, realized because I wanted to see if Aaron Rodgers was going to play. Even just the drive with him being on the Jets, I wanted to see that like kind of look. And he didn't play. It was Zach Wilson from the get. And I was like, oh, great. But and then I turned it off probably about halfway through the first quarter. But I thought it was a good game. Like, I mean, from what I saw, and then I watched the highlights. One thing is Dorian Thompson Robinson. We talked a lot about UCLA today with like the realignment. He performed really well. 8 for 11, 82 yards, 1 touchdown, and 33 yards rushing. So I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I don't have much to say because I did not even watch the highlights of this, so I have no idea what happened. Um, I will go. Rodgers didn't play at all, like you said. I don't know if that's surprising to me or if that's like, yeah, makes sense. Because typically you don't play those like long-term veterans that like are your number one. You're just like, hey, go chill, whatever.
Yeah,
But with him being on a new team, I would think I would give him like at least a drive or two or something, just to kind of like more live practice or whatever. Like, hey, I really want you to get meshed with these receivers. Like, this will just help on the actual game time timing of routes and throws and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think I'm slightly surprised they didn't just like just one drive. Hey, Aaron, get in there. Like, let's see, like go rep your something or other a little bit. But I'm also not surprised because it's Aaron Rodgers. He's a good quarterback. He's smart. He knows what he's doing. I think he'll be fine in the first regular season game, having not played a single preseason snap. Like, he'll be all right.
Well, and I'm surprised on the other side that they didn't play Deshaun Watson. Like, because he, sat out 13 games last year because of the suspension and he only played 6? I figured you're trying to get this guy back up to speed of the speed of an NFL game. Should have at least played the guy a quarter. Like, I mean, that's what I was shocked about because he struggled last year coming back after sitting out for so long. He went from one of the top tier quarterbacks to like middle of the pack, maybe even low 20s. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, is preseason even worth it? Like, I feel like at this point, like, you could get the same aspect training camp or closed door practices, and this is not even worth it anymore. Like, you used to see like the starter at least play the first quarter. That's what you would used to see growing up. You'd see the starter play the first quarter. You don't even see the starters out on the field.
Yeah, I've never watched preseason. I've always been like, who cares? It's preseason. Like, the win-loss record doesn't mean shit for, like playoffs or actual Super Bowl contention or anything like that. I'm like, there's no reason to be here for, like, as a fan, other than just like, oh, like, my team is playing again. It's been so long without football, whatever, yay. But yeah, it's one, like you said, it's kind of not your team. It's your backups. It's your JV that's out there playing. And two, it's like, yeah, it has no grounding in like any or no effect on anything that's going to happen later on down in the season outside of like, oh, maybe this guy will start over this guy or, who knows. But no, the Deshaun Watson definitely is one that he needs to take a quarter. He needs to see the field. He needs to get back in the game and just like, hey, remember what playing a football game is like? Like, why don't you come do that right now against this JV team? And
right. I think the next game we're going to talk about, that quarterback needs to take a quarter too, and that's going to be the Packers versus the Bengals. And Jordan Love will need to take a quarter. I think
he'll play more in the quarter. I think.
I hope so. At least the quarter. Like, at the bare minimum, throw him out for at least a quarter because, like, how is he going to perform this first game?
Who is their other quarterback? Like, who's their backup and or like competitor with Jordan Love?
All right. It is.
On the other side with the Bengals, we have Joe Burrow, which he's one that's like Rodgers. He does not need to play. Like, he probably won't dress, won't even. I forgot. News. Yes. He's out. He is hurt. Yeah. 6 to 8 weeks. He will not. So he definitely won't be taking a quarter because what was it that he did again?
Tore something in his right calf.
Tore his calf.
Yeah. Why can I not find the Packers stuff?
Which, that's a rough one for the Bengals because where does 6 to 8 weeks put it? Is that 6 to 8 weeks from like this week, or are we already somewhere in that?
He tore it last week. So
we're in like week 2 right now. So he should arguably be back by the regular season or close to.
Week 3, week 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so Packers starting quarterback is Jordan Love. We all know that. But then Sean Clifford from Penn State, we saw him play, a Big Ten guy. Danny Etling, he's a backup. He played for the Patriots a couple years back. And Alex Magoo, he's coming from the United States Football League, where he signed a contract with the Packers. So we'll see how that goes over in Green Bay side.
So we'll see how long it takes Clifford to take Love's spot, because I guarantee that happens.
You think that happens? I feel like I've seen a lot of reports that he's been playing really well in training camp, which scares the crap out of me. Just because we've been through this before with Brett Favre, and then we got Aaron, and I just can't have this happen again with Jordan Love. I can't see 45 years of Packers quarterbacks, of great Packer quarterbacks. Like, I won't even be alive. I wasn't even alive for most of Brett Favre, but I remember the tail end of it, and it still was brutal. And I've lived through the Aaron Rodgers era. I don't want to live through the Jordan Love era. I can't. I just can't do it. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't have much of a basis or a grounding for saying this, but I don't think Love is the guy. I think he will shit the bed or be extremely mediocre. I don't think he's gonna be their next like big star quarterback.
For sure. I mean, and speaking of the Bengals, and you mentioned Joe Burrow being out, Trevor Siemian, we're very well used to Trevor Siemian, is the backup quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. So he'll be getting the starting nod. And Jake Browning, he was a Washington quarterback a couple of years back. And then Reed Senate is the fourth string guy. So, I mean, Trevor Siemian, we're used to Trevor. He didn't do awful for us, didn't do great for us, but he
wasn't with us very long.
No, he was there for a year, and we lost to the Jets because of him and the Lions because of him. But yeah, it's Trevor Siemian. He's a career backup, man. That's what he makes his money doing. Like, he makes his money, and he plays good for a couple of games, and he'll get another contract next year, and he's a career backup. He's just playing the system, and that's, well, he's going to start the year for the Cincinnati Bengals, so we'll see how that goes.
For sure. A game that I'm actually super interested to watch or see is the Giants versus the Lions for two main big reasons, being Sam Laporta and Jack Campbell. I want to see how those two do, just like at the NFL level. I want to watch them play. I am so disappointed that it's for the Lions. That stings a little bit, but hey, good for them. I still hope they do well. I still want to watch them succeed. I just wish it wasn't the team it was.
For sure. I'm actually really excited for this game too. I like to see our Iowa guys play. I'm really pumped, but also to see how Hendon Hooker does as the backup for the Detroit Lions. Like, I hate that. You're right. Like, I hate that the Lions got all these players I like, and Hendon Hooker's included. I liked him at Tennessee. I thought he was a great quarterback until he tore his ACL, and now he's their backup quarterback. And it's just like, come on. Like, why do
So do you think he plays the whole, like you keep saying backup quarterback, but like he's going to be the guy in the preseason game?
Oh, right? Yeah, Jared Goff, he proved himself last year enough that he's going to probably not play this first game, maybe not much at all in preseason.
That's just where this preseason gets confused. You keep saying he's a backup. I want to see how he does as a backup. Like, he's not backing up right now. He's leading. Like, for the preseason game, like he's the quarterback. Just say you want to see how he plays.
Yeah, and he's actually listed as a third string guy on their depth chart right now.
Who's second?
So Nate Sudfeld. He was a backup quarterback for the Eagles a couple of years back. And then their fourth string guy is actually Adrian Martinez. He played at Nebraska, starting quarterback for Nebraska for a couple of years. So that's interesting to see. But I'm also excited to see David Montgomery in a Lions uniform. Yeah,
he was there now too.
What the heck is the Lions, man? They got all the players that I like. I hate it. I hate it so much. Maybe I'm a Lions fan. I'm not.
Do we need to convert?
Yeah, I don't know. They're starting to build a good team over there.
They really are. Doing good
this is the time to convert. They are projected to win the North this year, which is crazy.
Lighten up my blue a little bit.
Yeah, I got to change mine completely. I can't even orange. But yeah, I'm excited for that. And since we mentioned pretty much the whole NFC North, the Vikings and the Seahawks.
Yep.
I don't know about this game.
Yeah, I don't have anything. I'm not going to watch this one. I'm not going to, we just have to throw it out there because it's one of the other NFC North games, and we've talked about every other one so far.
I will mention a couple things, and it's not even going to be about the Vikings, but I am curious to see if Geno Smith will be that type of guy that will sit out for a quarter or not and let Drew Lock have that opportunity, because I think Drew Lock, I don't know, they were so close in the quarterback competition last year, and Geno barely beat Drew Lock out, but Drew Lock kind of took his spot as that, backup quarterback after he was a starter in Denver. I don't know. I feel like that quarterback position is still pretty close, even after what Geno did last year, just because Geno was so irrelevant for so long.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still super close because, like you said, what Gino did last year was phenomenal. Like he greatly proved himself as deserving.
True.
That being said, he might take a quarter. I'm sure. I'm sure he still does play. I don't know if he's necessarily the bona fide like sit out, you're good, go chill kind of guy. But like I think we'll see a lot of Drew Lock and Gino will be getting some reps in there just to get some reps.
Yeah, which I think this is a good opportunity. We talk about is preseason irrelevant. Well, it's not because like it is a good opportunity for
It,
guys like Drew Lock and
it's not for the team.
no,
Like when we say is preseason irrelevant, like for the team aspect, for the sake of like the coaches and the players and what? No, no, not at all. For the sake of the fans,
yeah,
yeah. Like who gives a fuck?
right. Yeah, so it'll be interesting, man. I'm really excited about those games.
For sure. But to get into our real game that we're excited about coming up, we'll get into our segment Bear Necessities here. The Bears are going to play the Titans at Soldier Field on August 12th at 11 a.m. Central. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think we win this. Titans are kind of. Who do the Titans have?
Well, so it'll be interesting because they're in a competition with Will Levis and
Ooh,
Ryan
yep.
Tannehill, and they also have Malik Willis from last year. So, like, kind of that three dual head quarterback competition. They haven't named a starter yet. Titans depth chart starting quarterback.
Because the Titans did lose Derrick Henry, right? He's out of there.
No, he's still there.
Is he?
No one traded for him. No one signed him. And the Titans did sign DeAndre Hopkins. So
Ooh, okay.
it'll be an interesting kind of team to watch out for. So right now it looks like Ryan Tannehill is the starting quarterback. Malik Willis is second string, and Will Levis is third. I see Tannehill playing a drive. I don't see him playing a quarter, but I don't see him sitting out because they wouldn't have drafted a quarterback so high back-to-back years if they weren't ready to move on from Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
And so I think we'll see Tannehill play a drive, maybe two, and then they'll throw Malik Willis out there. He'll play the rest of the quarter, and then the second half, you're going to see all Will Levis because he needs that experience. And I think it'll be interesting to see Will Levis out there.
I think it will be too. I like Will Levis. I think he could do well. I want to see him do decent. Asterisk because he's playing the Bears, but you know, like I want to see him be capable of being an NFL quarterback. Put it that way. But let's focus on the Bears here, since this is our Bears segment and that is what we do. What do we think is going to be our like depth chart looking like here? Like, are we going to play most of our starters being new to the team and or guys that just need development, or are we going to go with the philosophy of like you're a bona fide starter, go ahead and chill?
I don't think Justin plays.
Really?
I don't think Justin plays. I think Eberflus has seen enough. At least this first preseason game, I don't think he'll play. Maybe preseason game number 2 and 3, like he'll play. But
I think he definitely needs to get some preseason.
Yeah.
Like first game, yeah, maybe not, but I think at some point he needs to hop in there and he needs to do what he's been doing all camp against another team.
Yeah, he might be similar to Ryan Tannehill. He might play a drive and then he'll go and check. Like he'll be like, "All right, you're done."
Yeah.
But I am excited to see PJ Walker. Like I was excited when we brought him in as our backup quarterback. He'll probably be taking the reins of the first team snaps. And then Nathan Peterman, we all know who he is, and he's trash. But we'll see him probably at some point in the game. And then Tyson Baggett, our 4th-string. But what I'm more curious about is our running backs. Who's going to play when? Who's going to play?
That's what I want. I think all of our running backs will be in the rotation. I don't think there's a question of who's going to play.
Yeah.
I mean, running back is a position you rotate anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, everybody there is going to get a shot. What I was going to ask was, do you think DJ Moore plays or not? Or do you think he chills?
I want him to play. But if I was, like, the coach or making a decision, I wouldn't play him. There's too many risks. And for what? you know what he can do. He's done it in training camp all year. He's done it in the off season all year. You know what he can do. We can wait, but for a fan aspect, we want to see him trot out on the field. But
Yeah.
I don't think he'll play.
If there's a drive that Justin goes out and like hey, we need Justin to take a drive, I think that's the drive that we want to throw DJ Moore in as well. Just say, hey, Justin, DJ Moore, go hit a drive. Let's see what you got. And then both of them, like, all right, you're out, you're chilling. Like, let's let our other depth and stuff get in there and experience the game.
Right. And I think the other aspect of why DJ Moore won't play is because we still got a lot of question marks. I don't think Darnell Mooney will play either much. I think both of those guys will kind of take a back seat in this, but because we got to figure out who our third and fourth guy are. Like in training camp, we haven't seen it. So is it going to be St. Brown? Right now, it says St. Brown's our second string guy, and then Tyler Scott. Or is it going to be Dante Pettis? Is it going to be Velus Jones? Is it going to be Isaiah Ford that we just signed from the Dolphins? There's too many question marks there. It's going to be hard to pick up.
Yep. And even outside of who's going to be our third guy, who's going to be our fourth? Who's going to be our first backup in to either relieve or to replace a dude from injury? Like they need more than just like a starting depth chart. They need the depth for the bench as well. Like they need to figure out, hey, once we're replacing 2 or 3 guys in here, like what 2 or 3 guys are going in first.
For sure. And that's similar to the running back position too. Like, is Khalil Herbert going to be the powerhouse? Is he going to be the workhorse? Or is it going to be Deontay Foreman? Is it going to be Roshan Johnson? Travis Homer. But, I mean, we signed him to be a special teams guy. But, still, in the preseason, you see all these guys play. I'm really excited about Roshan Johnson. I want to see how he is. I want to see if he can perform and if he can live up to, what he's done all offseason.
Yeah, definitely. But, yeah, anything else you have to... What about our defense? Let's talk about our defense a little bit.
Yeah, so we just signed a guy, Yannick Ngakoue. I butchered that name.
Right.
We signed him for $10.5 million. He's had a great career, man. He's an all-pro. He's played for multiple teams.
8 sacks a season since 2016. That's an exciting number to see. That's what we need. That's what we need to make happen on the Bears.
Yeah, and he played for Eberflus in Indy. I mean, he was a Raider. He played for the Vikings for a year, but then he was in Jacksonville for 6 years. So I'm pretty excited for. I can't say his name. No. It's too hard, but I'm excited to see him play.
We need a good nickname for him when we bring him up on the pod. Right.
But yeah, and then it's going to be interesting to see where our linebackers are. Because, right now it has Jack Sanborn starting over Noel Sewell and Terrell Lewis. So it'll be interesting to see if Jack Sanborn held down that position or not, because we thought, we mentioned it ourselves, that we thought Noah Sewell would take that position.
Sure. And I think he still does. It's early, and I think that's almost one of those things where it's like you can't go draft the young guy and then put him as first string when they have not shown you anything.
Right.
I don't think you draft a rookie to make him first string without acknowledging hey, Jack Sanborn did a fantastic job, has good flow to the ball, was successful for us. He's earned that spot. He might not keep it through week 5 or something with Sewell coming for it, but he's earned that spot through this offseason into the this preseason at least. You know what I mean? Give him a few weeks to kind of be okay, you know what, Sewell, you do have what it takes. You are successful at this level. All right, I think it's time we can start transitioning you in.
It's funny that you mentioned that you don't start without reason, a rookie position without reason. Well, Tyreek Stevenson is number 1 on our depth chart right now at cornerback, rookie out of the 2nd round over Kyler Gordon, which that makes sense. I mean, Kyler Gordon struggled for us last year. We took him.
That's the difference.
Yeah,
that's the difference. Jack Sanborn has done nothing wrong. He wasn't ranked super highly, but he's been super successful. So you got to set aside the expectations of them and consider like, okay, what have they done? Kyler Gordon, yeah, starting to struggle a little bit. So we got this like hot new rookie in. Like, all right, let's see what this rookie can do because our guy is struggling. Jack Sanborn is solid.
Yeah, I agree, man. And other than that, that's all I got for the Titans and the Bears. Except for a few key signings, we did sign Mercedes Lewis from Green Bay, tight end. So I'm excited for that pickup.
Are the Bears becoming the tight end U of the fucking NFL? Like, well, I feel like we've picked up so many fucking tight ends. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, and I don't know, man. Like, it's kind of weird because we got two Packer tight ends on our team.
Yeah.
Robert Tonyan and Mercedes Lewis. And Mercedes Lewis is old. He is old. Have you seen how, like, he is literally 39 years old. He's going to be our third string tight end this year. But we'll see if he makes it out of camp.
I heard somebody make the comment that the Bears signed him basically as an extra tackle. Like he might be a part of like the heavy set like run game. Like, hey, throw in a fifth tackle or third tackle.
Oh my god! And we didn't even mention our first round pick, Darnell Wright. I'm excited to see what Darnell Wright does this week. Like, so he's gonna be one of those guys that probably play the first half because he's gonna want to get the experience. Did you hear that story of Darnell Wright when they sent him like the training and conditioning for this off season so he could get ready? They sent him the wide receiver training and conditioning. And they didn't send him the lineman training and conditioning. And
like, Coach, I was under the expectations that I was going to play tackle for you guys. I know we need receivers, but really?
He didn't question it, and he did it. And he did it. And the interviewer was asking him questions about it, and he's just like, "Yeah, it was tough. I didn't think I thought I couldn't do it." At first, I thought about retirement, and just like I was like, "What?" And then he's like, "But then my time started getting lower and lower." He's like, "I went from 347 down to 298." I'm like, "No, don't lose weight." He's like, "In 3 months," and I'm just like, "Oh."
Does it say like wide receiver on the front, or is it just like arbitrary numbers that he doesn't know?
Yeah, I don't know, man. But I listened to that interview, and I was just like, oh my god! Oh my god! So if we need a good tight end in the goal line, maybe Darnell Wright can line up as an eligible receiver and pop out.
Darnell Wright. My question would be if there was any skills and drills section to that where it was like, all right, here's your route tree. He's like, route tree?
What does this mean?
You're like, oh, is this for the like those special plays where like we release a tackle up for a pass or something? Like, all right, yeah, I'm down for that.
Oh man. But yeah, so I'm excited, man. I think we got a good team. I really do. Like, I don't think we're gonna be a playoff team quite yet. But we have a lot of good characters on this team, man. Justin Fields, Darnell Wright, DJ Moore, and Jaquan Brisker has been a stud all offseason and training camp. So I'm excited for that.
I'm excited too. I'd have to look at our schedule a little bit, but I think we can be around 500. I feel like we've already talked about this. We have a projected wins for the season already, don't we? 6.5? Is that it?
Yeah, but maybe we'll have to do it again right before the season starts. We
will. Yeah. Especially after preseason, I'm sure it might change. But currently, 7.5. Over-under is at 7.5 right now. Yeah. So, 16 games is normal, right?
Yeah, 16. So
that's
8 wins season.
Technically, over 500 would be 8 wins. So, yeah, I think I could questionably take the over on that.
Yeah. But yeah, man. Oh, and Gervin Dexter has been tearing it up this offseason in training camp too. So I'm excited to see him play. I don't care about preseason, but when it comes to the Bears, I am excited, and I will watch that whole preseason.
I'm ready to see the players do what they do, and like see who's going to stand out a little bit, see who's going to be good, and yeah, just see how they come together as a unit in play. Because like we've seen these guys' stats, we know what some of these guys can do. We have expectations for some of the rookies, but ultimately, like we need to see how it all comes together in one picture now. Like now, we're gonna get the Bears' defense just together, working, and see how all of them mesh and do all of that as a unit.
Right. And it's not even just the players. And, like, I'm curious to see how Eberflus does, and I'm curious to see how Luke Getzey does, and Alan Williams redeems himself from last year as our defensive coordinator. Like, it's not just like the preseason, like you said. It's not for the fans, it's for the team.
Yeah,
And the Bears are one of those teams that truly needs the preseason.
I 100% agree. All right, well, that is all the time we got for you guys today. We apologize if we're still knocking off a little rust here. You know, we've been off for almost a couple months outside of our one midsummer episode, so we're knocking off a little rust. We're getting back into the swing of things, but hopefully these next few weeks will only get better and better. And yeah, we'll see you guys next Fridays. Is that what we're rolling with, or what's our planned release day? I forget.
Fridays.
Fridays. All right. Plan release days. Episodes coming out on Fridays. So yeah, we will see you guys next week.
All right, guys, and I just got 2 words. Bear down!